You've gone through hell and back. You might have even gone back for more hell, and you've pulled yourself out of the flames. You're now on your own, out of the abusive relationship, feeling beaten down and a shell of a person. How do you empower yourself after an abusive relationship? On today's video, I want to talk about how you can empower yourself and find your identity after leaving an abusive relationship. I appreciate everybody that sent me an email asking me to do this particular video about empowering yourself after an abusive relationship, because I think oftentimes when we're dealing with an abusive relationship, we might seek therapy during the relationship. But once we decided to leave, to exit stage right, or to get that divorce, usually that's where therapy stops. But I believe that this is the pinnacle part that needs to really be looked at. Because in order to understand ourselves and overcome this relationship, we have to empower ourselves as an individual to get past it and to move on with our life. So how do you empower yourself after an abusive relationship? Okay, let's talk about that. The first thing to realize that it's normal to feel the codependency or the addiction in the relationship. No matter the level of abuse, no matter if it was mental, emotional, or physical, it's normal to feel that addiction. And so the need or the want or desire to call them up, to see them is very normal, but you've got to stop yourself from doing that, because going back into this abusive relationship is just going to take away from your life. And you've already set up a boundary to leave this relationship. You've got to follow through with this. Step 2, mourn the loss of the relationship. You need to mourn that time that you spent in that relationship, not for too long though, and begin to let it go, to realize that this has been a learning process for you because you've learned what you will not accept in your life. Step 3, for the first time in forever, you're not taking care of somebody else. You need to be taking care of yourself. Often in abusive relationships, what happens is we're constantly at their beck and call, trying to take care of them, walking on eggshells, and we lose our identity in the relationship. We become a shell of a person because we no longer know who we truly are, because all we're trying to do is to make them happy, to make them less abusive, to make them basically love us. So it's time to find who we are. Step 4, because of all the pain and trauma that you've been through, oftentimes we have a negative broken record playing itself over and over again in our mind, and we're not even really aware of it. When you've been in an abusive environment, especially a mentally abusive environment, you may think very derogatory things about yourself. You may say them over and over again in your mind. You might not even realize what's being said in your mind until you begin to take note of what's going on. I advise you to begin to examine the thoughts in your mind, writing those thoughts out in a diary of sorts, to get those thoughts out of your mind and to begin to look and see the thoughts that are currently taking over your mind. Step 5, it's time for you to take back your life, okay? It's time to get out there, work out, move around, walk, eat better, take good care of yourself, get more nutritional food, okay? Actually putting yourself first, getting the sleep you need, reading, educating yourself, eating right, working out, all those things go a long way to showing yourself that you actually care about yourself. And that's how you begin to power yourself up, by putting yourself first and taking care of yourself and taking yourself out of this entire abusive environment. Last but not least, and reminding yourself that you have this one life to live and you need to live your life, okay? When we're in abusive relationships, what happens is we begin to live a life that's not ours. We stop being ourselves because we're just trying to conform to the situation, no matter how negative and how abusive it is. And so what happens here is when we finally leave that abusive relationship, we begin to power our life up, taking care of ourselves, putting ourselves first, recognizing the broken record. We begin to wonder why we ever lived in that environment to begin with. Because we have one life to live, shouldn't we choose it to be around people that unconditionally love us, that care about us, that bring us up instead of putting us down? And I think when we look back at this abusive relationship, you can say, okay, I'm not the most happy about that, but the good thing is that I learned a lesson, and I'm going to take that into the rest of my life, and I'm not going to fall into that again. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and share with your family and friends. In the comment section below, let me know, what is something that you want me to specifically talk about when exiting a toxic, abusive relationship? Is there a certain step here that you'd like me to go further in depth, or is there something totally different that you'd like me to cover? I'd like to hear from you, and I'd like to hear your perspective. Again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. And in the process, remembering when you're leaving that abusive relationship, that's just the way for you to live your true life.